Beneath the neon glow of the Las Vegas Strip in 1978, this city was still a small desert crossroads, just over 160,000 people, where casino work shaped not only paychecks but entire lives. Unions were powerful, jobs on the gaming floor promised real stability, and the promise of a middle-class life wasn't just talk, it was routine, community, and pride, all bound together by the rhythms of night shifts and dawn commutes. But what did it truly mean to build your world around the hum of analog slot machines and the steady watch of a union steward? To understand the heartbeat of this era, we have to step back into this world and cross that threshold together. Las Vegas in 1978 was a city of just over 161,000 people, still small enough that most residents could recognize a neighbor at the grocery store or a familiar face at the corner bar. The Strip's neon lights cut through the desert darkness, but beyond the casinos, the city felt close-knit, almost insular, a place where the rhythms of daily life pulsed to the beat of casino shifts and union meetings. With $1.8 billion in gaming revenue that year, the local economy revolved around the casino floor. Paychecks from blackjack tables and slot aisles did not just pay the bills. They funded public schools, paved new roads, and kept the lights on in neighborhoods from Paradise to Sunrise Manor. Union strength defined the era. The Culinary Workers Union, Local 226, stood as a constant presence, its contracts shaping wages, benefits, and even the hope of home ownership for thousands. One longtime steward remembered that a fair contract was not just about the money. It meant my kids could go to a good school. It meant we could buy a house. It meant we did not have to worry if someone got sick. For many, the Union Hall was as familiar as the casino break room, a place where grievances were aired, victories celebrated, and the sense of belonging ran deep. The city's scale made these bonds possible. In a place where nearly one-third of the workforce drew a paycheck from the gaming industry, the fate of a single casino could ripple through entire neighborhoods. This was a city where the glow of neon was not just spectacle, it was the sign of bread on the table and a future built on steady hands and steady work. As the camera drifts toward the casino entrance, the promise and pressure of this world hang in the air, waiting just beyond the doors. A push through the heavy glass doors brings a wave of sound and light. Rows of mechanical slot machines flash and clatter, their chrome arms pulled by hands both eager and weary. The air is thick with cigarette smoke, curling upward in slow spirals, softening the sharp edges of neon and making the lights above the tables glow with a constant amber haze. The scent of tobacco and stale coins settles over everything, mixing with the faint tang of spilled whiskey and the sharper notes of perfume. Coins rattle into metal trays, spilling over with each win, while attendants in pressed uniforms make their rounds, refilling hoppers by hand every half hour. Stacks of quarters and silver dollars pass from palm to machine, the rhythm punctuated by the steady clink of payouts and the muted cheers of a lucky player. Along the aisles, cocktail servers slip between clusters of gamblers, trays balanced with practiced ease, their voices nearly lost in the din. Overhead, a grid of analog cameras keeps a silent watch, their feeds monitored from a small, windowless room tucked behind the floor. There, two operators squint at grainy black and white screens, logging suspicious moves with pen and paper. It is a far cry from the digital surveillance that would come later. The casino's heartbeat is constant, dice bouncing across felt, cards flicked in practiced arcs, bells marking jackpots, and the low hum of conversation rising and falling like a tide. Every sound, every flicker of light, every breath of smoke is woven into the fabric of the place. For those who work here, this is more than a job. It is a world unto itself, alive with ritual and routine, always just a little brighter and louder than the city outside. The clock on the wall never stopped in a Vegas casino. 3 shifts kept the floor humming day and night, each crew slipping in and out like gears in a well-oiled machine. The evening shift might start at 4, but for many, the real work began in the back rooms, over shared sandwiches, a strong cup of coffee, and a round of jokes before the lights and noise took over. Break rooms held their own rituals. Every birthday meant a cake, often homemade, and a quick chorus before the next round of coins needed refilling. On the floor, camaraderie ran deep. Slot attendants swapped stories while filling hoppers, their hands stained with the smell of metal and tobacco. One recalled that you learned to move fast, but you always had time to help a friend. Pit bosses, dressed in crisp white jackets, walked their lanes with a steady eye and a quiet word for every dealer. Tom Walker said he knew every name, every family, every little thing that mattered to his crew. He said they looked out for each other, and that was what kept the place running as much as any machine. Shift after shift, these small acts of care built a world where work and life blended, and where the bonds between workers felt as solid as the walls themselves. The casino floor was a stage, and every shift demanded a performance. Cocktail servers moved through the crowd with trays balanced high, weaving between slot machines and blackjack tables, their steps practiced and quick. On a busy weekend, tips flowed as fast as the drinks. Every order, every smile, every extra napkin folded into the rhythm of earning. A portion of those tips, 5%, went to the bartender at the end of the night, a silent nod to the teamwork running beneath the surface. Dealers stood for hours, hands steady, voices clear, eyes never missing a beat. Before they could touch a deck on the main floor, every dealer spent 4 weeks in apprenticeship, learning not just the rules, but the pace, the math, the psychology of the table. Mistakes weren't just frowned upon, they were logged, reviewed, and discussed by pit bosses who watched over the action like hawks. 3% of a dealer's tip pool went to those pit bosses, a small price for the guidance and oversight that kept games moving and tempers cool. Most servers were women, most dealers men, but pride in the craft crossed every line. For many, it wasn't just about the money, though a good night could mean a mortgage payment. It was about knowing you belonged to a crew that could handle the rush, split the tips, and walk out at dawn knowing the floor had run smooth. As the first hints of sunrise crept across the desert sky, the casino floor began its quiet transformation. The night crew gathered near the pit, exchanging tired glances and a few last jokes before the handover. Each shift ended with a ritual. Logs were passed from one set of hands to another, notes were scribbled about the night's quirks, and there was a careful count of chips and cash. Outside, the city's rhythm ran in reverse. While most families slept, workers filed out through side doors into the soft, growing light. The air was cooler now, the neon fading as the sun took its place. On the road home, headlights pointed west, away from the strip, toward rows of modest houses and waking neighborhoods. In one kitchen, a young daughter waited at the table, rubbing her eyes as her mother walked in, still smelling faintly of cigarettes and coins. The daughter remembers that her mother always came home just as she was getting ready for school, and sometimes they would share breakfast before her mother turned in for the day. The city's pulse slowed, but for casino families, this was the beginning of their quiet time together, a life measured not by clocks, but by the changing light and the promise of another shift, another sunrise. A steady paycheck on the casino floor in 1978 could do more than just cover the basics. Dealers earning $5 to $5.75 an hour, with tips folded in, often brought home enough each week to afford a 3-bedroom house in a quiet suburb. Mortgage payments hovered around $210 a month on homes priced near $42,000. Many workers found themselves able to buy a reliable car, fill the pantry, and still have money left for league nights at the bowling alley or a backyard barbecue with neighbors. The rhythm of night shifts and early morning commutes was balanced by the comfort of knowing bills were paid, kids could join a school team, and Sundays could be spent around a grill, not worrying about next month's rent. For casino families, the math of middle-class life added up to something rare, real security and a sense of belonging. Ownership of the casinos in 1978 rested mostly in the hands of local families or tightly held partnerships. Names like the Gauhans at the El Cortez or Albert Parvin at the Flamingo were familiar not just to workers but to the city itself. The Strip was a patchwork of independent houses, each with its own quirks and loyalties, and decisions were made in back offices rather than distant boardrooms. There were no digital slot machines, no player cards or loyalty apps tracking every bet, just rows of mechanical one-armed bandits and cash exchanged by hand. A historian recalls that it was a personal business. If you worked the floor, you probably knew the owner's face, and he might know yours. The technology that would soon sweep through the industry, ticket in, ticket out slots, computerized surveillance, and corporate branding, was still years away. For a brief moment, the world of the Vegas casino was as local and human as the city that surrounded it. A dawn bus rumbles past quiet houses, headlights flickering on empty streets. In the back, a uniformed worker leans against the window, eyelids heavy, a faint trace of cigarette smoke clinging to her jacket. On a kitchen shelf, a bowling trophy catches the early light, its gold figure frozen mid-swing, a small monument to nights spent with friends after long shifts. For so many in 1978, the casino was more than a place to earn a living. It was the center of a world, a source of pride, and the thread that tied neighbors, families, and futures together. Today, the Strip's neon burns brighter, but the rhythms of casino work have changed, shift by shift, paycheck by paycheck. Fewer jobs offer that old promise of belonging and security. Yet echoes of those smoky dawns and tight-knit crews linger, reminding us what stability can mean when it's built on community.